So namaste and welcome to Satsang. It's so good to be back here. We are still flying high from retreat. We're buzzing and we're going to do our best to try and be sensible for the whole Satsang. I'm not sure I'll manage it, but we'll give it a go. So today there are some questions that have been sent in, but I thought we could get to those later. I want to open it up and give a chance for if anyone has a challenge or a question, or if anyone wants to do some self-inquiry with me or contemplation, feel free to raise your hand here on Zoom and we'll see where we go with it. Perhaps I was thinking we could go through some questions. I'll finish with a couple of questions that have been emailed in, and maybe we'll do a nice meditation to finish, just a short meditation to finish. It'd be a nice way to wrap it up. So does anybody have anything they need help with to do with awakening, at least? I just thought I'd better put that in there. Okay, Gabrielle. Yep.
Hi, Helen.
Hi.
Nice to see you, and thank you so much. I just want to say that first. Thank you, thank Maggie, thank Ian for that amazing week. And oh God, I've just been sitting, I've been redoing the retreat recordings, I've been laughing with the laughing meditation and just seeing things clearer and clearer. And the thing that is still right at the top for me is that rage.
Yeah.
Is that rage, and it's coming up actually under rage is, I mean, I've had such perfect things happen today. I was at work with people coming in and really pissing me off so badly that I've had to just come home and look at it again and again, and it's really deep sadness.
Yeah,
really, and I can feel it in the chest, and it's obviously all held in a way that I'm still blaming everybody in the world for this unhappiness, and everybody or everything I've ever thought. Mainly I saw, Helen, it's everything I've ever thought about everything in the world pushed right back onto myself as hatred. I've seen it before, but just deeper. Deeper levels of this self-hatred. So the emotions are right on the surface.
Yeah.
So just
but let's put that as a step forward, because at retreat we were really trying to encourage you to kind of feel that emotion, because something inside didn't want to go there. So we got to, although it feels unpleasant to have these things coming up, you've got to look at it as a success, because finally we can feel it, and life is more than happy to give you situations that help it to surface, as you've seen.
Yeah.
So what is it you said? You mentioned the rage, you mentioned sadness and some hatred. Is it all of those, do you feel, or which one is?
It's all of it, and it's a deep, it's all of it. It's the thing that I don't want to express the rage, because I'm really scared of the rage, that it will just overtake me, and I'm scared of that power. I really saw that there's such a power inside me. I don't know whether the rage is just a surface layer of it, but I'm actually really scared to be my powerful self, to be my true. Does that make sense?
It does. And I remember the same thing. But I would like to point out that you're being that powerful self now already. It's not something you're going to step into. It's only that right now you're using all of that energy to squash down these emotions.
Yeah.
So nothing is going to change when you finally let those come to the surface, because you're already using that power, that energy. You are that power. It's not something that you can misuse. It's something that you are, and that's a hugely important difference, isn't it? You are the infinite power, so you can't actually use it or misuse it. And it was vital for me to understand this about myself before I could feel safe in being authentically me.
Yeah. Would you because now it's easy to access the sadness, and it was all it's all childhood stuff. my mum was depressed, my sister died as a baby, my dad was angry because of that. All of that, I've just traced it right back to right at the beginning. And not so suppression, deep suppression, because it wasn't safe, because it wasn't
And
safe to
as a
express any
child,
of it.
you couldn't deal with that as a child.
No.
And but let's look at the sadness. What sadness is, speaking to an unfulfilled desire. So what was it that you wanted that you didn't get?
Well, what came up today was I desperately felt my mother's unhappiness, and I so desperately wanted to help her not feel that sadness, and it's like a hopelessness that I couldn't fulfill that desire.
And
Help
how
her.
would you have felt if you could fulfill that desire and help her to feel better? You would have felt more what?
Oh, good.
If she's happy, if she was happy, would you have
Yeah,
felt
that's a
happier?
great
Would you have
question.
felt safer? Would you have felt?
I'd have felt connected. I felt very disconnected, like my mother was over there, this big wall between us, and I was feeling all her pain. So the desire was, I would love her not to feel pain so I can meet her, so I can really meet
Yeah.
my mother. And I guess underneath that would be
Because when you can
feeling
meet
of
her,
love
you
and
would,
connection.
yeah. So what the sadness is really about is wanting to feel love,
Yeah,
connection, intimacy.
yeah,
Yeah. So
definitely.
to get to the bottom of that, we can turn that around and ask, why can't you feel that now? Because as a child, we're taught that the only way to get what we need is from the outside in, from our
Yeah,
relationships. And now,
yeah,
as we start to see what we really are, we can allow that to come from the inside out.
yeah.
So this is coming up now to say, hey, you're still trying to get it from out there without
Yeah.
realizing. Can I now allow it to? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. Why can't I feel connected now? Really, isn't it? Ask that. And
It's just to flip it around because all we're
yeah,
taught really and all we know is that we have to get love, approval, respect, security through our relationships. And
yeah,
as you've pointed to, quite often, well, most often that never works because the other person in the relationship is unable to give that. They don't have it themselves.
yeah,
And as we deepen in our seeing and begin to live more authentically as the self, these things will come to the surface as a way of saying it's time now to allow this to come from your own self.
and that's just fantastic, Helen. And so many insights that I'd seen for years before have just really got clearer and clearer since, like you said, since the retreat. And the thing you said to me, and I've listened to it twice, I'm going to keep listening to it, when I was having all the rage and I came and asked you a question, and you said to me, you created the rage. And I kind of, well, I always knew that, but there was a real unacceptance still in me that I could have created that amount of pain. But of course I was still thinking of me as this very limited
Not as a separate being.
perspective.
You, the
Yeah,
self, it's arising out of the self.
yeah,
And the anger comes, the rage comes because we feel powerless
yeah,
to get what we need in those situations. So it's easier to feel angry than it is to get in touch with this deep sadness. It's a less painful energy, isn't it, to feel
yeah,
angry? And usually anger is usually covering some kind of fear or sadness or both.
yeah. There's been fear with it too. So I'm able to, I mean, I've had such deep sobs. It's been just beautiful. I mean, the whole thing's been beautiful, seeing it, seeing the insights, sobbing from such a depth I hadn't felt before. Would you say just let it do its thing? Let the sadness come and just let it come out if
I
it
would,
wants?
but also, get in touch with that, feel it as much as you can, but also really look at what is it that I actually want. When I looked at this myself, there was a deep need for love, respect from other beings, security. I was looking for
Yeah,
security,
yeah,
safety, and then once I got clear on what it is I want, then asking why can't I allow that right now, just as a kind of open question, and just beginning to reverse this mechanism that we've got where we try to get it from other beings. Instead, I can let it come from the inside out and let it spill out into my relationships rather than trying to pull it inward.
Yeah.
Just looking at, it's probably something like love or respect or safety, but
It's
just sort of
love.
spending some
Yeah.
time with that, and what is it that I wanted from my mother at the time, and those other beings around me that I don't feel I got. And you probably start to see that I'm still unconsciously trying to do that with some of my relationships now. And
Yeah.
it's just like now, as I see there aren't any others, clearer and clearer, this mechanism of trying to get it is breaking down and coming to the surface, to be swapped over for this different way of doing it.
Yeah, that's great. And I just want to say something else, because I find it so difficult to open up about all of this. It's been such a single-handed journey my whole life, and the awakening and then trying to do it on my own. It's just an old pattern. And
I think we've all done that one, right? Yeah. Been
yeah,
there, done that. Yeah.
and just feeling, I think the retreat cements the fact I can just share more of myself, knowing I'm safe, knowing it's in love. I can't tell you how much I value this, and everybody just having
We
that
need that, don't we?
ability.
We need that. And we it's one of our ways of being, of just trying to get it done ourselves. But whenever
Yeah,
we share something like this bravely, it always helps everybody. This will be helping everybody. And because there's only one of us, we've all got this deep sadness somewhere inside, haven't we? We've all had those. It might not be our mother, but it's usually someone in our lives that we didn't get what we felt we needed from. And then we're still carrying that, and it comes to the surface to finally be released in the non-dual understanding that that other person I was trying to get it from was myself anyway. No wonder it didn't work.
yeah.
Yeah. And that's a healing thing then, isn't it? So
And the people around me since I've come back, all on a copy of your book, they've just seen such a difference. And so I just feel so much gratitude that for you, and that this, I always felt, why can't the message spread more? And then suddenly I'm like, oh my God, it is spreading now.
it was
And
a
it's
very
kind of,
special time there, wasn't it? Something amazing
yeah,
happened at that retreat.
yeah,
And you're showing the evidence of that here you are sharing, even though it's probably terrifying.
yeah,
We just have these guards, don't we, that I can't open, like it's not
yeah.
safe to do so. But here we are, a loving community that are all supporting and encouraging each other. And I'm really glad you feel safe to do that, because it's helping
I
everyone.
do. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, good. Leonie.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
And thank you for having me. Yeah, so as you know, like I've been on a bit of a sort of coming back sort of stage, and I was just wondering around. I think I'm probably a bit blocked, because when I first came around, there was I was able to like sort of distinguish, like there was a lot of fear, there was a lot of sadness, and I'm wondering, maybe you can't differentiate, but like, do you think possibly my medication could be blocking some stuff?
Only if you believe it can.
Thought that.
You knew I was going to say that, right?
Yeah.
It's technically you might experience feeling a little bit fuzzy or something like that if you're taking medication, but it's always good to remember that medication is going to affect the body, and you are not the body, so nothing can block you in that way. And we all have these subtle places where we still identify with the body, like you've just said, but it's just recognizing that if you really are the self already, nothing can get in the way of you seeing what you need to see. We just have this very old habit of limiting ourselves, going back to being a separate being, and it just then lingers in these ways that we might not recognize at first.
Yeah,
it cannot
that's
be
really good.
withheld from you if you want to see something, because there's nothing other than you to block you, although it feels like there is. It feels like there's all kinds of things, you know. What is it you're trying to sort of look at? A specific emotion? It just feels like overwhelm or something?
No, I was trying to look at because I know like there's a lot of like the feeling of not being safe, but it's not really coming up at the moment, and sort of like a lot of fear, and you know, like the other lady said, sort of like deep sadness.
Yeah.
So it's, but I just feel like but I haven't really been, you know, I've only really just sort of started the journey again. So
you think you have, you're still being on it.
Yeah.
You're still being on it, right? So you sort of plug back in consciously, but it's been going on unconsciously. So you might find that you're quite surprised by how quickly seeings come. And but I would suggest doing like we did with Gabrielle, just looking at what you feel you want, what's missing. I'm not talking about in an outer way, because they're reflections, you know, money, time, loss. The feelings that we want as human beings: love, safety, approval, respect, whatever it is, that will be, it'll give you, you might start to get more in touch with the emotions when you start to get in touch with what it is that you want inside.
Got you. Yeah, thank you, that's great.
Most of us just want to be loved, you know, and for a long time that lingers. We try to get it from outside in, can't do that, therefore we feel sad, a deep sadness about it or something.
Yeah, thank you, Helen.
Good to talk to you. Laurel.
Hi, Helen.
Hi.
I've had I guess a nervous habit since I was a child of pulling my hair, and it never really bothered me so much until I started pulling my hair out. And so I've been doing that on and off for many, many years. And now what I'm finding is that it's like escalating. Like the more peace that I'm getting in my meditation, mostly I do the hair thing when I'm reading or I'm watching TV. So I'm not actually consciously like connecting with myself.
It's only later, isn't it? You go, oh, I've been doing that again. Yeah.
I've been doing that, or in the middle of doing it, I'm going like, oh my God, I'm going crazy with this right now, but can't stop, you know? So I'm just wondering how to be with that, or what to do with that. Because it feels like it's a really unconscious thing, and it just feels like it's like there's like a compulsion to do it.
So it could, something like that usually is some of course unconscious way that we have of attacking ourselves, diminishing ourselves. Usually I used to have something similar. I used to pick at the skin on my fingers, and again I wouldn't know what was going on till sort of later. And sometimes we have these conscious and unconscious ways of diminishing ourselves or trying to somehow punish ourselves. I'm just saying what it was for me. It might not be this for you. It might be a safety or a security thing. If I do this thing, I'm safer.
Can it be both?
Absolutely. That was where I was going next. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it becomes familiar, even though it's unpleasant or even painful, you know, it becomes familiar and a way of, if the egoic sense of self feels out of control, there's something that it can control then by doing this whatever this is for each one of us. So probably best just to sit with it, which you've probably already done, but just asking, why is this, you know, in a non-judgmental way. My mind goes, why am I still doing this? And that's kind of not the energy we're looking for. Okay. The self would kind of say, why is this happening now? Because it's coming up and happening more often, so that you can see it and release it. Yes. And you can only do that by sort of very non-judgmentally. It'd be nice if it stopped, and I'd like to see why, but I'm not going to beat myself up if it's still going on. You know, just gently asking, you might get a sense of it right now, what's underneath it, or you know, just sitting with that question. I'd just like to see what this is about. And it's probably something to do with unworthiness and or safety, as you've said. And
Yeah.
most
Yes.
times,
The first thing that came to me was fear.
yeah, I'm safer when I can control. And I've tried for so long to control out there, it doesn't work. So I'm trying desperately to control in here, or control my body or my weight or my appearance, or you know, fill in the blank, whatever we're doing. So it can quite often be something like that. And so just gently asking then, am I actually safer if I control? And am I actually controlling what's going on? Or am I just thinking I am? Yeah. Because that began to unravel for me when I realized I might think I'm controlling everything, you know, trying to keep it all together, but really I'm not. I'm just stressing myself out thinking I'm doing that. A momentous effort to keep my world as I think it, you know, as a separate being as I think it should be, get everyone to like me and all the other things we're doing. It doesn't work in the long term, does it? So safety, it's a common thing, isn't it? We all feel unsafe as a separate being. And just quite gently questioning again, non-judgmentally, is this actually making me any safer when I do it? Because of course it's not, but just letting that question just penetrate the resistance gently, and not attacking yourself at all, just gently with love. Can you get a sense of it? Just
Yes.
just like to see what this is about, really. You know, I don't need it to stop. Be nice if it did, but I'm not going to use that as an excuse to be unkind to myself. And see what comes up.
Yeah.
Sometimes these things are only going on because we're berating ourselves still about it. Sometimes that's,
well, I know it started as a child when I was very self-attacking, you know, and very, I was very unhappy, and it was soothing when it started. And so, but now I just feel a lot of love for that little child too right now.
and that's really good, isn't it? It's something that started innocently has now become something a little bit more, and it's time now to see. And it's very common as you get deeper into your piece that these things come up because it's time to let them go, not because you're failing, because it's now time to see them and release them. And from there we can look at it lovingly. What's going on here? What's this about really? What's underneath this? Yeah. And just shortcutting the mind, then the mind's, you know, can be very judgmental. Why am I still doing this? And those kind of things.
Yeah, I'm really happy. We have never talked about this really with anybody. You know, this is only something amazing. I've done, you know, in the privacy of my own world. And so I'm really happy that I feel safe enough to do that here and not judged.
There's some lovely brave sharing today, and it's just amazing. And it's powerful when a group of beings come together to support each other in awakening, isn't it?
It really is. I'm getting so much from being part of this community and learning from you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. Saima.
Hello, Helen.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm okay. I wanted to, first of all, thank you for the questions. I forget the term right now. Maybe it's because I'm excited to talk.
Don't worry.
You gave me last time, and I've been contemplating them, and so much has happened, which there's no time to get into, where it feels like I'm a different person, that the question of powerlessness and worth is just like, well, but now I seem to be existing in this place where I'm either I'm always a really small, tight ego that is either observing something really big and infinite happening around me, or it's gone. But my identification is very much this small, either there's nothing transcendent and I'm just dropped in solid in the real world, or I'm this small thing that's like surrounded by this big thing that I can't even explain. And sometimes it's pleasant, sometimes it's just so fearful, so scary, like it's like sinking in this black ocean, especially like that place of like between being awake and being asleep, of just floating and being aware of something really, really big and not being able to like find footing, and but then being really, really small. Like I am being aware, but it's like this tiny scared little thing is aware of this giant space. And I was just wondering how to start questioning this identification with this thing that's always really small and covered up by this thing that will swallow it.
So it's very common what you're going through, and there's a very direct way to look at it, to do some self-inquiry. So we can do that right now if you want to. We can dive into that, and
I'd appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely. So this small thing, this tiny thing that's kind of swimming around in this great open space of being, I want you to try to actually find it. And I know that sounds a strange thing to say, but it seems like it's really full on and powerful. But just right now, scanning your being and trying to find where it is. It seems a very strange thing for me to ask, but let's have a look anyway and see. Can you actually find it, this tiny thing?
I can't find it, but at the same time, it's like, of course it's you. You know who you are. But
yeah, and that's, you've done so well there. Let's just look again at whatever mind says about this inquiry that we're doing. Mind's going to comment on it, don't worry. Let's just look again and see this one that's terrified of life, of the self, of everything, of the beingness. Can you actually find it? Because well, let's look again first, and then we'll talk. I know you've just done it, but let's do it again just to prove again. When we actually look, is it actually there, really?
until I start to actively want to answer, it's not there.
Yeah. And
but then I'm like, it's not practical. I can't stay there, which now is, from everything you're saying, it's like, that's the mind. But then it's like, of course, when you're doing nothing, there's nothing. But then, yeah.
And that's okay. The mind is going to come up with objections and reasons why you can't stay there, it will say, or when you're talking or driving, you need this separate being, mind will say, so don't worry about that for now. It's enough that here and now we can prove that we can't actually find it when we look. It seems to be there, this me running around inside the beingness, this small me, the one with all the karmic patterns. When we really look, and everyone can do this with us right now, we can't actually find where it is. It seems like it's so real, and it really seems to be the crux of all of our spiritual challenges. But when we actually try to find it, it's not actually there. And it actually only seems to be there because of our belief that it is. So if I don't investigate it, it seems very real. When I do investigate, I find that it's missing, it's absent. And what I do find, what do you find then? When you search for that little separate being and you don't find it, what do you find? Take your time with this, you're doing amazing.
It's small windows, like small openings of, this is okay. This is it's not nothing. It's peace, but yeah, it's very, though it opens for like a few seconds.
Yeah.
So and then the mind and everything, like you said, karmic patterns. It's like there's so
And don't worry, if it only opens for a couple of seconds, that's okay to start off with. Of course, we're going to want more than that, but just doing what we've just done here as many times as you want to during the day, and as often as you can and want to. Every single time I looked, this separate being that was desperately trying to get rid of its karmic patterns, it was desperately trying to reach awakening. Every single time I looked, I didn't find it. And as I didn't find it again and again and again, something began to shift in me, because it began to get clearer that it's never been there. If it's not here right now, it's never been there. And you might not be experiencing that right now, but just looking again and again and again. And every time we search for it, it's not actually there. So it's like, when I don't look, it seems to be there in the corner of mine. When I turn and look, it's gone. It's just, in fact, it's not even gone. It was just never there. Because we are this infinitely powerful being, the infinitely powerful being, when we imagine something to be there, it's suddenly very real, isn't it? And there's a lot of work to do in that place spiritually to be free. When we actually look directly through some self-inquiry, where is this separate being? What is it? Can I find it? It's gone.
And it's very clever. Like, it knows exactly where to hit.
What to say, yeah.
Yeah,
but you can't stay here, and you're never going to have this all the time, and you haven't fixed your karmic patterns yet. It will say,
as you are going, it's changing. The reasoning is changing. And right now, the last thing was, who's going to love your partner? Like, if you get, it's like,
who's going to go to work? Who's going to be a parent to your children? On and on it will go. You can't go deeper into this seeing, because, so here's where we can shift our attitude a little bit. So anything that mind says to you now, mind is going to be asking you to clarify. And what mind's really saying is, how are you going to love your partner now as this beingness? So we can turn that into a question. Is it true I'm going to be a worse parent if I go deeper into the self, or a worse sister or wife, or whatever role we're playing? And so I began to use these things that mind was trying to ask me a question to investigate. You can't stay here. You can't stay like this when well, let me see. Is that true? Can I stay like this when I'm, do I have to keep reinventing a separate self in order to walk around the supermarket and do my food shopping or go to work? So these became mind threw these doubts at me, and then I began to turn them into questions to investigate. And
I'm looking forward to trying this inquiry, because it actually gets to what's been my latest challenge. And I sit in these meetings and it feels like I go there. I don't know if that's the right word, but then if I want to interact with people, I'm like, oh, I have to get out. I have to go back into.
And this is why the looking and not finding, looking and not finding, looking and not finding, again and again and again, is so powerful, because it begins to become clear it's never been there. So who's been loving your partner, who's been going to work, who's been doing the food shopping, is the infinite being. I know it sounds silly to say the infinite being's going to the supermarket with a trolley and filling it up, but that's actually what's been happening. And if it's not there now, this separate being, it gets clearer and clearer. It never is. Every time I look, it's absent. Every time. And it's just a well-believed idea that this separate being has been running the show. But if that's never been so, and it just gets clearer and clearer as we look again and again into, and more peace comes from that I don't even have to get rid of this separate being. Don't even have to do that, because it's not actually there. It just
Yeah.
seems to be. It's like smoke and mirrors, isn't it?
Yeah. And now it's easier to accept that based on having experienced other things before, like asking the question and one day realizing, oh yeah, I just believed that was the way it was, hence I experienced it that way. And
Yeah.
so
We are so powerful that whatever we imagine to be true, we never even question it for a long time, because we keep experiencing it as extraordinarily true. All of this energy and power is going behind creating and sustaining the illusion of a separate being. And it feels so real that for who knows how long we haven't questioned it. But the moment we look for it, it's not there. It seems to be like, even now as I'm talking, it seems like there's somebody here talking for me, even now. But I've seen so clearly and so many times that it's not there, that all there is the infinite being, that there's a relaxation in that. There's nothing for me to get rid of. There's nothing for me to fix. There never was anything wrong with me. All of this becomes, it's the kind of the fruit of doing this kind of looking and seeing.
I appreciate it, Ellen. Thank you.
Wow, powerful stuff. Have fun with looking at that, and yeah.
And I can't wait. It's actually, I stopped meditating for a while because I was like, the more I meditate, the bigger the ocean or whatever it is gets, and then the bigger the fear. But now I'm like,
this little guy running around in the ocean goes, ah!
Yes.
Yeah. This is and I tried for a long time to let go of that fear and to get the courage to merge into the ocean and all that stuff. And then I finally realized I don't even need to do that. All there is the ocean in this analogy. There's nobody rowing the boat in the middle of it, trying to get home. So finally, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. Okay. So let's go to a couple of email questions before we will do a little short meditation. So this one says, hi, Helen, thank you for your wonderful teachings. I would like to ask, can you explain the difference between witnessing and experiencing? I can witness a petal falling from a flower to the ground, but I don't experience what it is like for the flower. So could I say I am witnessing, no involvement? Is this how consciousness sees me? Thank you. So the difference between witnessing and experiencing. So witnessing as the self, as the infinite being, the pure awareness, whatever we want to call it, noumenon, consciousness, you said here as well. I'm using all those words synonymously. There's just the watching going on, and there isn't an identifying with anything in that. So there's watching a body and there's watching a flower, a petal falling, and there's no sense that this is me and this is not me. And that's the major difference between witnessing and experiencing. So in an experience, I really feel that I'm a separate being here, looking at the flower over there, watching the petal fall off the flower. There's a real distinction of me experiencing here and what I'm experiencing over there, what I'm watching, looking at, whatever. So consciousness just kind of is. It's just aware, it's just open, and it's looking through the human body. And it's also looking through the flower. It's also being a flower. It's also experiencing itself as a flower, as a petal, and all of that. And it's appearing as all of these forms, these shapes. And it's not able to identify with any of them. It's not able to think, this is me and this is not me. It's lost this concept of me and other, me and not me. This idea of me as a separate being has disappeared, or it's been seen through, as we were just saying, to never have been real. And all that remains then is consciousness. There isn't a me even in consciousness then. There's just the pure consciousness that is. Consciousness doesn't even see a me. It just sees itself. It sees itself as everywhere it looks. So whatever you perceive as the consciousness, you see your own self. You see that you are taking the shape of a human body and of a flower and of a house and a planet and a universe and a grain of sand and even the subatomic particles. Everything from the smallest to the largest is consciousness appearing as. So it's just really to experience, or to witness rather, I should say, without the separation that diminishes our joy and peace, our love, our sense of compassion and wisdom. When the idea is gone that I'm over here looking at this thing over there, and we can release that just by, like we've just been doing with Saima, looking, and can I find this person that's experiencing? Can I find this separate being? When I actually look, is it really there? So hope that helps. We'll go to one more. When I get deep into stillness, I often see a dark sky, excuse me, with stars surrounding me and feel like I am flying in it. Other times I feel or see a rush of bright white or silver light coming through my forehead. Question, is this just my thoughts, imagination? It feels more powerful than thoughts and is rather blissful. All I want to do lately is to marinate in it. Is this normal? I mean, I am up at 3 a.m. every day and sit for 3 or 4 hours and just love it. It has become my favorite time of the day. Your videos and satsangs have been so helpful and I'm grateful to you. Thank you. So when things like this begin to happen, they are really more, not so much thoughts, but just the effect maybe, or the way that our body is interpreting higher frequencies of energy coming in. So as we begin to deepen in our meditation and relax more, we might begin to allow more energy into the body, and the body might translate this as experience it as light or sounds or sensations. And it's very common. It comes with it a nice feeling because it's better higher energy than we've experienced when we're really just functioning through mind. The frequency of thoughts is really quite low, and just to begin to move away from that can become very, very peaceful. And of course you would want more of that, and that's why for me, I'm even able to sit here and say this because I wanted more of it, and then I wanted it all the time, and then I wanted it effortlessly. And those were the deep desire that drove my awakening. Once I'd kind of tasted a deeper sense of peace, and then it came a deep contentment and love and joy. It deepened into joy as well as love and peace, and then eventually bliss. And sometimes even some ecstasy. And that's always there and deepening as I, even today, even now, deeper than it was yesterday. So of course you want to kind of dive into that. And I remember a time when I used to get up, my 4 children were very small at the time. I used to get up really early because it was the only time I had to meditate throughout the day, and I was absolutely enjoying it. So it's very normal. Of course, you're going to want more of that. So it's not just thoughts, and as you've said yourself here, it feels different to thoughts. It feels blissful, and that is evidence of your accessing a deeper part of yourself than just your mind. Really beginning to sit inside your own self, your consciousness, the consciousness, and finding a level of peace in that and bliss. Just gently holding that desire for more of that. Not necessarily more, but more often. I'd like to feel this more often. I'd like to experience it when I'm not meditating formally. Can I experience this with my eyes open? That was a huge thing for me. Then can I experience it while I'm walking around, while I'm talking, and all of that? So very normal. And of course, we're going to really enjoy a deep peace and bliss. We've had so long of feeling scared, frustrated, angry, unworthy, all of those things. So it's nice to welcome it, isn't it, when it comes. Okay, so let's finish with a little meditation, and we'll just maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Just feels nice to sit and enjoy some stillness, some peace, some quiet. What we're going to do is just start by, today we'll just start by taking a few deep breaths. And as you're taking some deeper breaths, not stretching your lungs any more than you normally do or want to, just consciously breathing, so noticing our breath. And if you can, just allowing the bottom of your lungs, your diaphragm, to move at the same time. So you're not just filling your chest here when you inhale, you're also allowing the diaphragm to expand as well. So you're getting a nice, rich breath. Again, at your own pace, just breathing in and out whenever you feel ready, taking some time to enjoy consciously breathing. We're not trying to do any acrobatics here. We're just bringing some oxygen, some life force into the body and giving ourselves this gift of consciously breathing. Quite often when we're stressed or feeling unworthy, we tend to stop breathing or breathe in a very shallow way. So as we're breathing consciously, we're just going to then begin to become aware of the stillness. After we've finished our exhale, there's a kind of a stillness. As your lungs stop moving, there's a stillness. And when you finish to inhale before you begin to exhale, there's a short pause where nothing is really kind of moving. There's just a stillness. Just going to notice this stillness. And you can notice it by contrast. So when your lungs are moving, and then there's a stillness, you can begin to just become more aware of this stillness or quietness. You might feel it more as a quietness that's always here. We're just becoming more conscious of it. So whether our lungs are moving or whether a thought is moving through our mind, anything that moves at all, an emotion, a thought, a sensation comes and goes. We're just allowing what's moving to show us by contrast the stillness. The thought comes and goes. Inside that stillness, it isn't moving, it isn't coming and going. So we're not battling with thoughts or sensations or emotions. We're not trying to get rid of anything at all. We just notice something's moving and something's also still. And if at any time at all you feel you've lost your way, you can just come back to your breathing. And at the end of the exhale, just noticing that stillness, allowing the movement and the stillness to dance together. They're perfectly in alignment with each other. They're not getting in the way. There's nothing to get rid of here at all. Just taking a few moments, enjoying the stillness, the quietness. And again, if mind moves, It's okay. Attention may go to the thoughts. It's okay. Just bringing your attention back to the stillness. The space in which all of this is moving is not moving. And there is no goal here, nothing to release. Whatever needs to move will move. Thoughts, emotions, energy may move. Sounds in your environment outside. Just letting it move, whatever it is, and bringing attention back to the stillness. That we don't need to push against anything here. Attention may wander around, noticing movement. Just bringing it back to the stillness when you can. That which is always here and always still. Peaceful and allows us to feel contented, satisfied, fulfilled. So we're simply recognizing stillness through the contrast, but not conflict, of movement. The movement of thought allows us to recognize clearer the stillness underneath. Simply bringing attention back when it wanders away from the stillness. No blame. There's nothing we can get wrong here. We really can't do this wrong. Resting in this stillness. Resting as this stillness. Being that in which the body moves, the mind moves, emotions move. Letting it all flow. Everything that moves needn't be resisted. It only serves to emphasize the stillness in the background. So in a few moments, we will be bringing this meditation to a close and this satsang. And let's see, as we bring this to a close, do we have to go back to our usual way? Can we stay in the beautiful contrast as our body begins to move, to speak, as mind begins to move, just noticing the movement and then noticing the stillness, noticing the movement of thoughts, noticing the stillness, noticing the body move, noticing the stillness. Can we stay here where we're not trying to get rid of anything at all, where there is already peace and the deep quietness. Thank you. Namaste.